Hi, Miss Boone. So today I have the Unit 9 reassessment vlog. So I'm just going to start off with it. So the Earth's structure is composed of the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. Okay, so the first layer, the bottom layer of the Earth's atmosphere is the troposphere. And the purpose of this is to control the weather. This is the bottom part of the atmosphere, so it controls all the weather conditions, and this part combined with the next part, the stratosphere, makes up the ozone layer. Okay, so the next layer of the atmosphere is the stratosphere layer, and this layer is important because it's the uppermost part of the ozone layer between the stratosphere and troposphere. And the reason this layer is important is because it protects us from the harmful UV rays that come through. So this is a protective layer that don't allow the UV rays to come through or minimize it. Okay, so this next part of the atmosphere above the stratosphere is the mesosphere, and the mesosphere is mainly useful for human use. This is where we can put up a bunch of satellites and they will stay in orbit and they won't really leave this area. So that's why it's helpful. It's a fairly long range. It's from 31 to 53 miles. So I'm assuming that's height-wise, so that means there's 31 to 53 miles of mesosphere. Okay, and the final layer is the top layer, which is the thermosphere, and the thermosphere is mainly important for it influences the temperature that comes down to Earth, so it's kind of like the first layer. Like the thermosphere is where it first decides the temperature, kind of. Then as it makes its way down to the troposphere, that's where it becomes more selective. Yeah, and that's the main purpose of the thermosphere. Okay, so now on to the next topic of how weather and climate relate to the atmospheric conditions. And it says that weather is like the how it acts temporarily while it's in the atmosphere, and climate is more like the long-term effects. So weather is like day by day, and climate is like more year by year, where you can graph it out. And the atmosphere is important because for weather, it influences every day, and for climate, it lets us collect data over a long period of time. So we can collect data by day basis, which is like what we feel here on Earth, and climate is more like what it feels like up in space with the satellites going through the mesosphere. Okay, so next, two major air pollutants that affect us in our everyday lives are methane and carbon dioxide. Methane being produced from livestock mainly, and carbon dioxide being produced from what we eat and how we get around, our transportation. So these are the most harmful air pollutants because they have the most particles in a tight space. Methane is obviously the most harmful to us because there's just so many particles in that small space, and following that is carbon dioxide. There's other ones above carbon dioxide that are more harmful to us, but we use carbon dioxide more than other ones, so that's why it is so harmful to air, and it's a major air pollutant. Okay, so some strategies and solutions that we can take to solve air pollution is we can go towards more plant-based diets, because many of the air pollutants come from our livestock industry, and if we stop eating so much meat, and start eating more plant-based foods, then we can reduce the amount of methane being produced into the air from the cows and how much they burp and stuff. And for carbon dioxide, we can use more fuel-efficient cars and become more reliant on energy-based vehicles rather than gas-based or natural oil, natural gas-based vehicles, and that could help our world out a lot, actually. Okay, so stratospheric ozone depletion is one of the bigger problems that we face in today's society with the environmental world. The more that we use methane and carbon dioxide, the more our ozone layer gets depleted, and this can be very harmful to us because as the ozone layer gets more and more depleted, we have less protection from the sun, which can lead to more skin-related diseases such as skin cancer, and they can just ruin somebody's life because the UV rays are so strong that the human skin won't be able to take it, and this causes for global warming too because more sun's getting in, the UV rays are coming in more, and it's getting harder and harder to stop them because we just keep using the same amount of natural gases and methane, and nobody's really taking any efforts to stop. So that's how we can improve our society. Actually, many people are taking steps forward. They're switching to more plant-based foods, kind of like, I don't know, more towards a vegetarian diet, and more people they're trying to get closer to energy cars or like battery cars because they're finding out that it's better for the earth. Like the company Tesla is making more fashionable cars, making them more expensive, which ranks them up in social class, making them more luxurious. So more people want to be able to buy them, but they're still affordable to like the everyday person. So Elon Musk is taking a big step ahead, trying to improve this, trying to reduce ozone depletion, and he's also making a fortune off of it. So he's a smart man. All right, so the most common greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide, obviously, and the reason this is greenhouse gas is because it stays inside of the atmosphere. The ozone layer is getting depleted, but it still stays inside. Not a whole lot of it escapes. This is leading to climate change, the world warming up more and more because of these greenhouse gases. Like carbon dioxide, I know we use so much of it that it's kind of hard to reduce our use now because it's part of our everyday lives, and we'd have to find new sources of energy to use that are more expensive, and people want to pay the cheapest price that they can for energy. So it's going to be hard to get rid of this, but if we can do it for the world, it would be better because then we could keep our world in better shape and keep it ready for future generations. Okay, so researchers have two primary ways of studying the climate, one of them being through weather stations, and weather stations are like kind of tripod looking figures, and they pretty much have a rod that goes into the floor, and they see how the ground warms or cools over extensive amounts of time, and this allows the researchers to see how the earth is warming or cooling. And another way is through weather balloons, and weather balloons are pretty much like these big balloons that get released into the sky really high into the atmosphere, where they have instruments inside of them that record the data, and then after a certain amount of time the balloons pop and all the data comes back down to earth. Or they also have like wireless receptors up there that can transmit the data onto earth, or like down into the research stations while they're still in earth, or while they're still up in the air. and this is great for us because we get to see how the weather conditions are changing around us and what we're doing that causes for these weather changes. Is it from how much natural gas we use? Is it from like the way we eat? We can figure these out with these climate techniques. How researchers look for or check the climate.